Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Small Business Boot Camp. We are glad to have you with us. Sorry, I had something popping up on my screen. As we like to do when we get started here, we like to start by having everyone throw in the chat, just as Lamont did. Throw in the chat where you are tuning in from. So we're going to start with Lamont's joining from Oro Valley. So post up in the chat where you're tuning in from. We like to see the different parts of the state, sometimes out of state, where everybody's from. We got Scottsdale, Phoenix, Mesa, Gilbert, Casa Grande, Yuma, Phoenix, Tempe, Phoenix, Lake Powell, Page, all right, Prescott Valley, Marana, Peoria, North Phoenix, Sanders, Sierra Vista, Cloudy Phoenix. All right, we have from all over the state. Looks like we got from Page to Sierra Vista to Yuma. So excellent. We're glad everybody could join us this morning. We're glad to have you with us. We've got a great session lined up for today. As we like to do, if you've not been with us before, we like to start by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these community partners without their time, their effort, and their expertise. Now, one thing I just realized is I didn't introduce myself. I am Robert Theobald. I'm the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and your host for today's session. So jumping back to our community partners, they spend a lot of time putting together these presentations and sharing their expertise, and we could not do them without their help. So also those new to the boot camp, the Small Business Boot Camp is designed to help businesses prepare, plan, and grow. And we do that in a number of ways. The first is our weekly Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. webinar that we host every week throughout the year. We also host some special sessions, some lunch and learn workshops, and some in-person workshops. And all those are to help provide support to small business owners throughout Arizona as you work on your business. One of those pieces of the boot camp that's very helpful is the small business content library. We take all of our webinars and workshops that we do virtually, and we record them, and then we post them in the content library. So we have actually at this point well over 300 recorded webinars, and some examples of those are recently we did a special session on the new Corporate Transparency Act, the beneficial ownership information reporting requirements. And so that special session is recorded, and you can find that in the content library. And then we also did a couple lunch and learns, one with the Arizona Department of Revenue and another with the IRS. And those two lunch and learns can also be found in the content library that you can access and find those items that may be helpful to your business. So it's an amazing resource. The ACA also has a number of other programs that help support small business. The Career Readiness Credential and Arizona Innovation Challenge, Arizona MEP, our Manufacturing Extension Partnership, the AZ STEP program, the Arizona State Trade Expansion Program, designed to help businesses export their goods and services, Arizona at Work, and then my team in Small Business Services. You can find these programs and more right there on the link at azcommerce.com/programs. One of the programs that my team runs is the Small Business Checklist. And we like to share this. You got that QR code, you can scan it and to take you right to it. But the Small Business Checklist is an online interactive tool that helps entrepreneurs and businesses that are looking to start or expand identify the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal level. Aside from those pieces, there's a lot of other information in there. It is very detailed with links to the different organizations and agencies you might need to work with, along with business planning and other pieces that can help support your business. We also have, for the less detailed information, we have our virtual assistant that you'll find on that page, Sally, for our state and local licensing information virtual assistant. With that, I want to share a few updates. We want to share that on February 13th, so next week, ASBA, the Arizona Small Business Association, is hosting their Arizona Speaks webinar from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And it's finding funding and access to capital. We do a number of things with ASBA throughout the year. And then we're going to share a link in the chat for a complete guide to filing your business taxes. Found this article and it was pretty good, so I wanted to share it with everybody. So we'll share that in the chat. We're also going to share a link to some of the national grants and awards that are available at this time. These are not just Arizona pieces, but these are national programs. They may be competitive, so when they're competitive, they're very difficult, but you can't win them if you don't apply. So we want to share that information. So it might be of interest to some of you. So again, that will be posted in the chat. So let's look at some of our upcoming sessions. Next week, we have your growth formula, getting from vision to execution. Then on February 20th, we have a great session on how to avoid the top 10 legal mistakes that can destroy your business. This is an amazing webinar. We try to do it a couple times a year. Things change a little bit, but the information in this session is amazing, and we highly encourage you to watch it and share it with your friends that have businesses so they can watch it, because there are some mistakes that people make that can be very damaging to not just your business, but your personal assets as well. So please share that one. And then the following week after that, we have Unleashing Creativity with Generative AI. Small businesses guide. So we're looking at how we can leverage AI, or how small businesses can leverage AI as going forward. So a lot of great upcoming sessions, but let's focus on today's. No, we're going to get to today's in a second, but I do want to share this upcoming workshop. So as I mentioned, we do workshops in person as well, and we have an in-person workshop we host with the Phoenix Business Journal. It'll be on Wednesday, February 14th, from 8:30 to 11, 8:30 check-in. We'll get started right at 9 a.m. and go to 11 a.m. It's in person only, and it's the registration. We'll post the link in the chat. The registration is through the Phoenix Business Journal, and there is a slight fee for that, but we're excited to do that quarterly workshop with them. So now let's jump into today's session. We've got Michael Goodman. He's the president of Revenue Kinetics. We're excited to have him with us. We've got a new topic today that we haven't done in the past, so we're excited about that. So Michael's going to do a lot of interaction that we want you to post in the chat, but when you have a question, please look for the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. You'll also see the chat down there. The chat has kind of one quote box next to it, and then the Q&A has multiple little quote boxes. So find the Q&A for questions, use the chat for the interaction, and with that, Michael, I will turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. And I don't know if Arizona knows how fortunate they are to have the resources of the Arizona Commerce Authority on their side. The level of education I see you bringing to the community of Arizona is really powerful and important for all that I see business leaders want. In the bio you showed there, you said I've been in business for 40 years. It's 40 plus years, and I'm not telling you how many of yours are in the plus. It's not another 20 years plus 40, but it is some years beyond 40. And all of that has been with small business people. Although I've had clients with companies like Intel and AMD chips and whatnot, most of my interactions have been with smaller companies, the ones that make up the heart and soul of the Arizona economy. And I don't know if people get how important they are in this fabric of a community we are, but all of the innovation in Arizona, all of the growth and success comes from the small business community. So, Robert, your work is a mitzvah. It's a sainthood of value to the business community. The Arizona Commerce Authority, Faith Ritchie, who's shyer than to be seen on camera here with us, but all the work everybody does is really powerful. And thank you guys for taking on these challenges and fears of, oh my God, I want to start a small business. Great, I started a small business. Oh, I started a small business. Because we all go through these cycles of ups and downs. Tell me that's not so. In fact, if that's not so, put it in the chat room. I will be enjoying watching that. Robert, I want to double check and make sure, am I sharing my screen effectively right now? Do you see
We do not see your slide yet.
Okay, well, let me see if I can fix that fairly quickly. And then I want to get into
There we go.
perfect. And then I want to make sure that I understand what all the people on this conversation want to hear the most about. So if you don't mind, take a moment and type into when you woke up this morning, you said, I get to go see this guy, Michael, whoever he is, speak to motivating prospects to take action. I knew that there were things that I wanted to see and I wanted to know. That's what was showing up. What do you want to know most from this conversation today? I don't see anybody typing, so start your fingers to typing, man. I want to know what you see. And I want to say, it's good to see all the people on the call. I know a few of you. Welcome, Janet. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. I get kind of excited about this stuff. Some people might say I'm a geek. Okay, maybe more than some. Do me a favor and put into the chat window, what would you like to get most from this conversation today? You can have anything you want. What would it be? You can even say winning lottery numbers. We're not going to get there, but you can say that. All right. So the purpose of this conversation is to understand what motivates prospects to take action with persuasive language. That's the whole conversation that we set up. And, you know, a lot of times you hear this called the unique selling proposition or the 30-second elevator pitch or things like that. And those are normal. But when we frame it as persuasive language, we kind of think that we're using our sales voodoo to make people do what we want them to do. And I want to approach that right away. If we are forcing people to take action that we want them to take, we're effectively being manipulative. And that's not our purpose. My purpose is not to be manipulative, but to bring value to the community. Getting a customer off the fence is a good answer, what we want. Gaining people's trust when they are untrusting and we are so new. What a great question. We want effective language. Some of the questions, always great to see you, Michael. We work with connectors, so are interested in any particular tips when using a third party to introduce a product. That's not one I expected, but we will have to address that. What's the most effective way to target your prospects? I'm so glad you asked that question because we're going to address that real particularly. I'll share that in a moment. Actual scripts for me to use when speaking with clients. Here's the thing. How do you feel about creating your own scripts on top of a structure of how to do that? It's more important to me to teach you how, and today build scripting language that is your language between you and your customer base. And that way, if you know how to do that, you can do that with any product you ever sell, any business you're ever in, and make it very powerful and workable for you. And that's my promise to you. So I'm going to invite you to do this. Grab some paper because we're going to do work exercises, and we're going to do the work exercises. And I want you to be available. I want you to be able to write some stuff, and there'll be some pauses while you write the exercise work. And that's going to come up in a minute. When I talk about the best, back to the slide, the best way to create influential language is to understand our prospects deeply. Who are they and what do they want? And then design the language to help them recognize. We're not going to twist their arms and pull it up over their shoulders. We're going to help them recognize we bring high value and reduce risk. Okay, so let's move on. On today's agenda, we're going to address a few things. I mentioned we're going to look at the bone structure of influence or sales. That is, how do I create this language anytime I need it for any place that I need it for? We're going to do a couple of exercises that help us recognize the value we bring to our prospects. And if you want to put this in the chat, let me just ask you this. Do you ever feel like you fumble every time you meet somebody new and they say, what do you do? And you don't have something brilliant you'd really like to have to explain what you really do? I hate to tell you that even though I do this for a living, I still fumble sometimes. It's pretty normal. And so what we hope to do is have that language at our fingertips so that we can use it. And not only us, but everybody in our company can use it, can have it and use it so that we're all singing from the same hymn book, if you will, that everybody who ever talks to anybody that works for us knows how to articulate what it is we do. To make that work, it's important to us to drill down into who our prospects are and what matters to them. And I want to speak to this for a second. I I was fortunate to participate in the Arizona Innovation Challenge judging portion, and I got to read through lots and lots of business plans that were in that challenge. And these are people who know what they're doing and building a business plan to participate in the challenge. And what I discovered more than anything else is that they have two major challenges. They generally don't know how to talk about their company very well, and they don't really have great funding plans all the time. Some are brilliant, some are perfect, but for the most part, it's missing. So I want to drill down into who our prospects are, what matters to them, and how do we speak to those things. And then we'll create language that not only gives those people what matters to them, but dominates our marketplace. What do you mean dominates our marketplace? Well, this is a key question. When I talk about market dominating position, I am not talking about a Hitlerian dictatorship that forces people to do what we want. That's not what I mean by dominating. I mean, we will be able to build language so powerful that what it does is it captures the biggest chunk of market share for a limited niche of people we're talking to, and then allows us to build the next niche and the next niche and the next niche. And as we do that, we begin to take a greater share of the marketplace we are working in at any given moment. Does that sound valuable to you? Or not? Type away. I'm going to keep moving, but let me know if you would like market dominating position so that you are very powerful with your competitors. To make this work, there's some things that we need to know. I'm going to camp here for a little bit. I used to call this the 3-minute sales drill, but really 3 minutes a little fast to be going through this process. I want to understand, I want you to have how this works so that you get the depth and breadth of what we're really doing when we talk about our company. And one of the questions was, how do I build trust? And it lives in some of this conversation here. Are you ready? Okay. When I first got into this business, I had been the general manager and sales manager of a corporate computer training company here in town. Here in town, I was a corporate resource for what was a global franchise. So I owned Phoenix and Tucson, and we did a lot of work in supporting people who were transitioning jobs. And I share that with you because when I left there, it was like a big deal, but it occurred to me that what was really missing in the world was a career school for people in sales. And so I thought I would create one of those. And to do that, I had to write a curriculum for salespeople. Understand this. When a person who's in high school, has never done sales before, goes through a training program like that, or a person who could be in college but never went, is in a curriculum like that, and they graduate from that program, they're going to get hired by a company, and they're going to get hired into a place where they've never worked before, and they don't have a book of business. That is, they don't have a client base to talk to. And so this curriculum, I wrote this curriculum to help those people, put them through a 14-week training cycle and help them have a mid-level pipeline 90 days after they started in any new company. When I say mid-level pipeline, I mean they'd have a pipeline that is the new opportunities that they were prosecuting as strong as any of the mid-level people in that company. So to make that happen, I wrote this curriculum and I built it, I predicated it on sayings in sales. These are 3 of the sayings that I used, and it really encapsulates all of sales. So it was called the 3-minute sales drill because it was all you ever needed to know about sales in 3 minutes. But you know, sometimes long and slow is better than short and fast. So let's take our time and really get to understand it. And the first item is this. Because everything that we do is based on relationship, we need to be aware of how do we build relationships. And every relationship is built on 3 pillars, right? So all of sales, all of relationship is a return on investment equation. There's no relationship you're in with anybody, including your dog or your home or your car or your significant other, that doesn't depend on a return on investment. Everybody wants something from the other person. The sale happens when the buyer's perception of value exceeds the investment. Value is a key word here, and you will see me use interest and value interchangeably. Interest is what there is before they know that we can provide it. Value is what they get from us once they know we can provide what it is they want. So the sale happens when the buyer's perception of value exceeds the investment. And what that means is return is what's in it for me. How simple is that, right? I just want what I want from this thing. And investment means risk. And risk matters a lot. Risk goes way more than money. It's time, it's energy, it's effort. It is what's at risk is our relationship with our employees if we don't get it right. What's at risk is everything that we're going to lose or not get value from if the what's in it for me isn't sufficient. But when it is, if you notice, what happens is the return, when we have more with them than risk, the return drops to the bottom and the sale happens. The moment return drops, that's the selling moment. That's the moment they made a decision. That's the moment they made a choice to hire you or to use you or to buy from you or interact with you in any way. And you never see it happen. You can look in their eyes and never see it happen. You don't know that it's happened. So you want to be aware that when they make a choice for you, it may happen and you don't notice it yet. All right, next item. Every relationship in the world is dependent on three things. This is where I meant to talk about your dog, your house, whatever. Every relationship in the world is dependent on trust, credibility, and interest or value. And remember that interest is what they think you have or might have that they're interested in, but when they know that you're trustworthy and credible, they believe that you can bring them that value. Right? And trust has to be discovered. Credibility is fostered. You can build credibility. If you lose trust, it's hard to get back and the sale will die if you don't have it. And you won't get a chance to talk about your value until they trust you enough or there's low enough risk for them to get the interest. Let's talk about this a little bit further. Interest drops right to the return side of the equation. That matters because we're trying to weight the return side of the equation so that it outweighs the risk, right? Trust and credibility live in the O of the ROI equation. Michael, that's weird. Why do they live in the O of the ROI equation? And yes, I can have this whole conversation with myself. It's okay. It lives in the O of the ROI equation because it's really slippery. Trust and credibility at the beginning of our conversation with them rolls all the way to the investment side. It is an investment they have to make in us. They don't know us. They don't trust us originally when we first meet people. We have to build trust and foster credibility. And so at the beginning of a conversation, it's on the I side. However, when that happens, the teeter-totter here, the I is down at the bottom. That means it's a long, slow slog up to getting trust and credibility to the return side. It's worth it. And the moment we have that, it makes it so much harder for our competitors to get in the game. Why? Because they know us, they trust us, and we are the incumbent provider at that point. Okay, move on. All I have to do is move my cursor. There we go. Trust, credibility, interest. Now, the return side of the equation, we get there. The next item in our equation is motivation to action. And I want to speak about motivation to action. And here's where you're going to want to take some notes. Motivation to action lives in the gap between what I have and what I want or want to avoid. And this matters heavily because motivation to action is why they would say yes to you. You want them to be motivated to take action for you. And that lives in the gap between what I have now and what I want or want to avoid. If you can imagine the last time you bought a car, you had a car before you bought it. For whatever reason, the car wasn't suiting what you wanted, or it was broken. You wanted to avoid a broken car. And so you began thinking about another car. And you began looking for the features and benefits that you could afford to have in that new car. And that became what you now have. And so when the gap between what you wanted or needed and what you bought was strong enough, was big enough, then it became appropriate to take action and purchase another car. So what is acid, Michael? That sounds like something fun from the 70s. It is not. That's not what I'm referring to. Write this down. In vertical order, ACID stands for agenda, current, ideal, and delta. And the agenda question, the agenda is what we deal with at the beginning of a sale. Whenever we start conversations, the way I did with you, if you ask for what you want, what would you like to know most about this conversation? What do you want to get from this hour we're going to spend together? When you ask that question, you're going to get a variety of answers. Whatever those answers are, what do you suppose they're telling you? They're telling you their primary motivation to buy from you. It's important. Write those answers down when they tell them to you. The answers you gave me, what's the most effective way to target our prospects? I would love to get actual scripts for me to use when speaking with clients. These are things you said. Always great to see you, Michael. Thank you. Somebody, Barbara, always great to see you. We work with connections, so are interested in any particular tips when using a third party to introduce product to the ultimate customer target. Don't misunderstand. Barbara is a wizard about stuff like this, so I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you another day. We want to gain people's trust when they are so untrusting and we are so new. How many of us experience that? Well, all of us, right? They don't trust us, they don't know us, they don't like us. Our job in that moment is to make the risk as minimal as possible and make sure they recognize our value is as significant as possible. And we do that by not, when I used to teach this in its simpler format, I used to teach people, make sure you give them permission to say no to you in the beginning. Say no to me? Why would I want that? It's because some people think salespeople are threatening. Some people on this call think salespeople are threatening. And if we give them permission to say no, what we're really doing is telling them we're not going to be a threat to you. So when we give them some kind of permission, I'm not sure if this is a fit for you. Not everybody wants this, what I have. I may not have been thinking about that at this time. Whatever it is, diminishes the pressure for them to listen to what the value may be. So we're going to move on here, but motivation to action lives in the gap between what I have and what I want or want to avoid. I missed a piece. The agenda, the conversation is what's going on now. So when they give you the agenda items, especially if you get 5 items, you can ask what's going on with item number 1 now. And then, well, what would you like to have around that? Here's where the magic lives. Here's where influence becomes the strongest in your whole sales conversation. Get this. When you ask them to measure the difference between what they have now and what would be ideal in either money, in time, or in an emotional scale that they make up in their own heads of 1 to 10, they become present to how important that transition is for them. What you said was you'd like to have a lot more time on your hand. If you had all the time you wanted, what would that be? Oh, I could use another 10 hours a week that I don't have. I got it. If you had 10 hours a week, what would you do with that? And as they answer that question, they are thinking about it. They're thinking about having it, and they are present to that in their mind. And that becomes the start of their desire to take action, right? If we could just raise our revenue by 50%, we would have this much money. Really? Well, how much money are you at now? You can ask that question. I know it's a little freaky to ask somebody that. Or what would that show up to you as an increase? And if you could do that, what would change? All we're doing is getting them present to the value, the change they would receive at the end of that transaction. I hope that makes sense. I hope you get that value, because the acid conversation is where all magic of influence lives. And the delta, the measurement of the difference between current and ideal, falls to the return side of the equation in the buyer's mind. Spent enough time here, but I want you to get this. This is really important. All right, now I want to do something that's a little bit more fun. This is something I call the 10-question exercise. Those of us who can count recognize this is really 20 questions. That's okay, don't worry about it. Here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you to take a moment and write down 10 of the questions you get asked on a normal basis. Whatever you're doing, people ask you 10 questions. Michael, we don't have that much time. All right, do the best you can and get at least 3 questions people normally ask you. Are you ready? Go. And if you feel like it and you want to put it in the chat window, you're welcome to do that also. You know, a lot of times when I do these presentations, I do them where I can see everybody's face. I can't see everybody's face. I can't see anybody's face. I can see my face, but I already know what I'm thinking. Can't see your face. So I'd love it if you had a thought and you wanted to put it in the chat window, you would do that. Why so expensive? What do you do? That's a great question. How much do you charge? How did you get into the business? Great questions. How long have you been doing this? Right? Good. All right, let's stop here. Let's not stop. I want you to fulfill this to 10 questions, and this is going to matter more as we get further down the road. Understand this. As you get those questions, those are the questions in the back of everybody you talk to's mind that they want an answer to, whether they've asked that question or not. And your job, brilliant question. Your job is to be able to have answers to those questions that are powerful for you. Carrie Mays, I love your question. What makes you different? See, a market dominating position is designed to differentiate you from your competitors. And by providing the market dominating position, ideally, you take out the people who are not really your prospects from that 30-second moment. Barbara, that's a brilliant question. The OEMs have this as a service. What makes your solution better? Or why should we choose you? Got it. Okay. Let's go on to the next question, the second set of 10, and that's this. List 10 questions your clients should ask you and they don't think to. You know that they should be asking, you know that they should want to know this, but they don't think about that. What 10 questions can you provide answers to? Well, Michael, this is fascinating. Where are you going with this conversation? And yet, in every sale, there's a period of time when your buyers are trying to figure you out. Do I even need what you do? And if I need what you do, are you the person I want to buy it from? And the way we answer the questions, the way we help them know that information as simply, easily, and comfortable as possible, the more likely and simply we are to win that business. If we can help them understand us in a way that makes them feel good and makes them trust us or know us, this is part of the process, then we have a much greater shot at winning that opportunity than any of our competitors. So, anybody want to throw in questions they should ask us, but they don't think to? Oh, tell me about your service, Janet. I got it. I don't need this, so why should I listen? What makes you different? How good is it? I don't need this, so why should I listen? Brilliant question. You know, if they are asking that question, you have to ask yourself if they are a legitimate candidate or prospect for you. If they don't have any motivation to listen, then you might be able to twist their arm to get them to buy, but they're going to struggle to be a good candidate because they haven't heard anything that helps them recognize what's in it for them that has meaning and value for them. How have you validated this? Great question. What if something goes wrong? How am I protected? Good. Right? What if we answer, what if something goes wrong? How am I protected before they ever ask that question? What impact would that have on the sale? Especially if none of our competitors ever answered that question. What experience do you have doing this? That's a credibility question. Tell me about it. What do you charge, or why do you charge the rates you do? And how are they calculated? they're fundamentally saying to you, I want to make sure I understand what you're going to charge me. I want to make sure you're credible and that I can double check you. And you know what? It's fair. They should be doing that. And when you respond comfortably with them, those answers, and they check your work and you're accurate, your trust value goes up, doesn't it? All right, we need to move on. I'm gonna jump, and I'm gonna make sure that we get enough time to finish this conversation. Here's the next thing I want to share with you. This is called the values inventory exercise, and I created this when I was working with a company, and I was asking everybody in the company, what do we sell? And people really couldn't identify other than what they would put on an invoice. Well, we sell this. That's not what I meant. What are they buying when they buy that? What's in it for them when they buy that? And nobody could articulate what that is. And so I grabbed everybody in the company, I brought them into a conference room, I threw pizza in with them, and I wouldn't let them out till we answered this question, right? What do we sell that they are buying from us? What do they want from us? So I'm going to ask you to do this exercise with me. I want you to think in your mind, what's the number one thing you sell right now that causes buyers to reach into the bank, into their pocket or the bank, and pull out money and give it to us? And for our purpose, I'm going to call it a special widget. When they buy that special widget, what do they get for themselves? Well, these answers are going to vary a lot for either one of you or for all of you, but they're going to be in a pattern that shows up on a regular basis. And one of the great ones is cost savings. Good. If they have cost savings, what else do they get? Well, cost savings gives them time savings. If they get status, they get more, and you can list this out. And this can actually be like 5 pages of material. I have done this in companies where we fill up the great big easel pads 5 and 6 deep with all the values that they get. What really matters is once you get into cost savings, what else does that do for them? And what else does that do? What is cost savings? Well, they can buy more product, they can buy more supplies, they can capture larger markets. Awesome. And that becomes part of your value inventory. Time savings. If they had more time, what would they do with it? Well, they can market more. They can spend more time networking. They can spend more time at home with their family. Time savings. I would love time savings. Whatever it is, these become the value propositions that motivate them, right? If I had time savings, what would that do for me personally? I would spend more time with my child at home who needs me, and I don't get to spend enough time. Is that an emotional response? It absolutely is. And I would invite you to put a little circle next to every value that is emotion-based and put a check mark next to every value that is a functional or physical. So cost savings and all of its subcategories, cost savings by itself is a functional physical value. But what I can do with that money that I get to save may be emotional. You know what? I get to buy a new car. I get to take my wife to Hawaii. Right? If those are emotional values, put a circle next to them. Are we on track so far? Am I doing good? Am I going too fast? Put a yes if I'm doing good. Put an S if you want me to slow down in the chat window, please. Doing good. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. All right. Yay. It's good to have feedback, man. It's weird not seeing your faces, but we're all good. All right. We're going to move on. The sell versus buy or the values inventory exercise is a key component of what we're about to do next, and a key component of you understanding the ROI you bring to your clients. I could spend 3 hours on this exercise alone, and you would walk away with the foundation of all your future marketing. I want to get into some other stuff, though, real quick. To get to a market dominating position, we want to understand the physical characteristics of our target prospects, because our target prospects, we're going to be speaking to them, and we want to talk to them in their language. So I don't know who your target prospects are, but there are a number of employees. Every company has 0 to 50 or 1,000 or whatever the number is, employees. If we know their headquarters location, products or service types, all this information, if you can get, it helps us talk to what matters to them the most. I'm going to point you to items 10, 11, and 12, decision maker, influencer, or user. We don't have a lot of time to get into this, but when I teach sales, I teach people that there is only one person ever who makes the choice in any company, and it's not necessarily by title, it's not by committee, it is one person who carries everybody else. And it's not unusual for it to be the user. the person who's most responsible for the results of the purchase. Okay? But keep in mind, when you know those things, you know how to build language for those people. I'm going to move on, but keep that in mind. We go to the next item, market dominating position. This is where we begin dialing it down. Look, take that physical description, and that becomes the functional physical from the values inventory exercise and what we just added to the document before this, and you can list all of those here. And then the emotional description of value, and document all of those here. So when you look at your values inventory exercise and see the emotional value you bring, those go here. Now here's where we get fun. Here's what I know. Every one of us who's in business knows we're in business because we want to be relevant. We want to make an impact. We want to be bring value to the community we serve. We want to be somebody who matters. And that is wrapped around, what are you passionate about? And I don't know what you're passionate about, but I know this. Between physical and emotional descriptions, predominantly emotional, you're going to find the people who will fit your emotional description that you want to work with the most. And I would invite you to start listing those here. This becomes your niche. Does that make sense so far? Yes, Michael, thank you so much. Then we're going to create a revised physical description of who we're going after based on who our niche market is. Okay? We're going to go after people who meet our passion, people we can serve physically, people we can serve emotionally, the ones we care about the most, and then we're going to create our ideal client. Now, I created this as part of this exercise in my own world. My physical description for a client is a business owner leading a team less than 5 years. They're typically 30 to 55 years old. And by the way, these are typical, but they're not absolute. I want you to create an ideal client for at least one person, but the reality is you have multiple, so you can create multiple ones of these. The emotional description. In my world, every business owner I've ever met has a consistent low-grade worry, typically around not enough business. They don't know that they know enough. How many of the people we know in business sometimes think we're an imposter and shouldn't be here? I'm not driven enough. I don't have enough discipline. I'm not related to my employees. All hate me. I don't like my employees. Whatever. There's a lot going on. They're not related to their employees enough. They want leads for new opportunities because if they're getting leads, those sales are simple. They want financial sovereignty. We all do. It's a driver of humanity. We want to know that we are safe and secure in the amount of money we're making. Every business owner I know wants to take their business to the next level, or at least the ones that want to work with me. They want an organized, structured team. They want the degree of freedom to not be slaved. Almost every business owner I've ever met feels like they work too hard and they're looking forward to the day when they can take a week or a month off and go to Hawaii, leave the business in good people's hands. So I brought that down into, they want leads, profits, revenue. They have a consistent low-grade worry. They want to trust the team. You know, I say it this way, use education to mask their confidence needs, but we all need education. One thing that matters is they have a drive and they're willing to do the hard work. And that brought me to a revised physical description based on all these things. This is who my client is. When you ask me, who do I want to work with? I can tell you, this is my list. I want you to have this, and this video or the slides will be available to you after the presentation. I want you to have this because this becomes where we start building the language that we need. I want you to take that revised physical description, and I want you to think hard about what they want. This is where we create innovation. I want you to think hard about what they want and compare that to what you do now. And if what you do now doesn't fit what they want, you either need to change who you're working for or change what you're doing, one of the two. Right? And so what you could do is a question, what could I do? If I'm not feeling what they want, if I'm not serving what they want, what could I do to do that? If I'm not doing what all my competitors are doing, what could I do to be different? You know, if you use your imagination, you can blow up what you could do and then start listing how will they benefit. Your job, our job, every business owner's job is to understand how we do what it takes to be different than everybody else. Okay? So if you want to buy a Chevrolet, there's like 10 Chevrolet dealers in Maricopa County. You can go buy the same Chevrolet Bolt at any one of them. It's how that dealer It's how that dealer responds to you and how he creates relatedness with you that makes him different. Okay, so how will they benefit becomes your value proposition or your market dominating position. Does that make sense? So take what they want and what we do now, and then decide what we could do and how they will benefit from that. And now we are separating ourselves from the pack. All right, let's start getting into our 30-second elevator pitch. This is where you need to be asking questions, because I'm not sure I covered everything, or I've bridged all the gaps in your knowledge. So feel free. What I want you to do is start taking a piece of paper. And the easiest way to do a 30-second elevator pitch is to think about, do you know how your customer base has X scenario? You can make it 3 if you want. They have target pains of this, this, and this. What we do is, and now you summarize your value in less than 30 seconds. Okay, does this make sense? This is another place to put a yes in there. Does all of this make sense? And are we currently prepared to start writing a 30-second elevator pitch? And if not, let's ask a question. Thank you, Janet. Anybody else? 36 people on this call, 1 yes. Are we prepared to make this work? Good to go. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. All right. Sometimes I can't see all the small letters on my screen. Michael, thank you. Jarvison, thank you. All right. So I hope you're writing now. And we're going to take about 4 minutes right here. In fact, let me ask you this favor. Once you've written a 30-second elevator pitch that you like, will you do one of 2 things? Will you type in done in the chat window? Or if you're gutsy and you want to be a leader, will you type in your 30-second elevator pitch?
And Michael, if we want to, we can have someone they're done. If they want to raise their hand, I can find it on the participants and we can bring them in and they can share it with everybody.
Well, that'd be so awesome. Let's see who's gutsy. Did anybody get that complete yet? Janet, you said magic there. This is going to take me longer to prepare. I know. I get that. Do the best you can with what we have, and know that this is an iterative process. Whatever you write today won't be nearly as good as what you're going to write when you're driving home or later today when you're not listening to the sound of my voice. I'm not saying that because I think not listening to the sound of my voice is a gift. I'm saying that because I think you'll have quiet brain space to really think that through. And if you're feeling gutsy and you want to take a shot at it in front of Robert and Michael and 36 other strangers, okay, not including you, 35 other strangers, click the raise your hand button and let's share. Let's see what we can get. Gutsy people share. Leaders share. Growth comes from sharing. They're trying to provide value so that it crosses the ROI hurdle and say, I want to share. I want to. We got about 1 more minute. y'all should know you are lucky to be behind a wall that I can't see your faces. Because if I could see your faces, I would be calling you by name. Now, I could go to the participant screen and find all the names, but I think that would just be rude. If you wanted to be seeable, you'd raise your hand. But I still would love to have, and by the way, the people who go first are the gutsy ones, the bold ones, they are the driven ones, and the ones who get the most out of this material. The ones who raise their hand, I'm so glad I'm behind the screen. Well done, Jana. Um, the ones who do that are really giving a gift to everybody else who wasn't willing to do that. I'm going to get off this topic in just a second, but I would love to see you post it in the chat board for everybody to see. I'd love to see what you came up with. I know we went through this material fast. I know you weren't thinking about this at the depth we've covered it before we started. Oh, well, way to go. Way to go, Faith. All right. So, but whatever you do, it's going to help yourself and it's going to help everybody. But when my clock clicks over to 9:53, I'm going to move on. Hang on.
Kate said she'll share. Are you ready, Kate?
Yes, type it in. So our whole hope is to have something powerful as you're trying to do this, and you're judging. It's normal for us to be judging ourselves. Is mine good enough or not good enough? And I don't want to go first because I don't want to look foolish. But the fact is, nobody's foolish here. We are all in a growth phase, taking on material we've never really seen before to build a market dominating position that we've never touched before. Right? So I applaud you. Just want you to know. And if I see you at Venture Cafe or the Arizona Commerce Authority or out in the world somewhere, I please tell me what your 30-second elevator pitch came down to. And I'm going to presume that Kate is typing. So while Kate types, I'm going to go on to the next element here real quick. And this is a 10-second pitch. So for me, my 30-second elevator pitch might sound like, do you know how business leaders are always, oh, here we go. Ariana, thank you. Kate, thank you. Navigating the college app process is time consuming, stressful, and could have put a strain on families' relationships. Adding the extra steps for becoming a music major in college can compound the stressors. As an experienced music admissions counselor, I can guide the whole family through this process with clarity, saving you time, stress, and help your student thrive in their college experience. Kate, that's like really wonderful and powerful. If you like what Kate has put in there, if that moves you to want to know more about Kate, can you just raise your hand or type in a yes in the type in a yes? Would love feedback. Here's the deal. In 30 seconds, you nailed all the major things you do. In fact, that goes to our 10-second pitch. If I were turning this to a 10-second pitch, I would suggest to you that yours is guide the whole family through the process with clarity, saving time, stress, and help your student thrive. That would be 10 seconds, right? And if I were going to bring it down to the primary value propositions, your student will go through the process with clarity, save time, and help them thrive in college. Does that make sense? Okay. Nashira, enjoy your nutritious gluten-free bread surrounded by your loved ones. You don't have to wait anymore for amazing gluten-free bread. Purchase today. Take a look at that. And in fact, watch the video afterwards and you tell me if that fits exactly what you're after. Nashira, well done. Okay.
Michael, Ariana raised her hand, so I don't know if we want to bring her on to share.
Whoop, I do. Bring her on. But I dropped my screen share here.
All right, Ariana, you can speak. You're on mute right now, but you can unmute and.
Am I back, Robert? Is my screen back?
Yeah, your screen's back. Ariana, did you want to share something with the group?
She raised her hand for Kate's pitch. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And Robert, I don't think the chat that I'm looking at is in the sharing screen, is it?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I've, qualified for my Zoom license. All right. We are a two-sided marketplace app that connects EV owners who are charging challenged with neighboring EV owners who have level 2 chargers at their home, creating an Airbnb type process for drivers to rent chargers. Good. Awesome. All right. If I were going to change that based on the do you know how, I would say, do you know how it's a pain to find EV chargers when you need them? Do you know how you don't always have them? And sometimes when they're at your own home, they aren't as powerful as they need to be. What we do is connect neighbors with each other who have level 2 chargers at their homes, creating an Airbnb type process for drivers to rent chargers from their hosts. That make sense? Janet, are you saddled with everyday employee issues that take up your time? And are you trying to grow and need to hire? I can help. Okay, good. And how would you frame that, Janet, in a do you know how what we do is format? No worries. All right, because we only have 2 more minutes, I want to wind us up real quick. Guys, this is brilliant. And if you want to send it to me personally, I think I can share my email address. I want you to notice how everything we said here relates specifically to a particular target need, their pain. We're not asking for anything here. We are inviting qualified prospects to say, how do you do that? Once they say, how do you do that? They're now qualified. And if they're not qualified, they don't respond. This is narrowed specifically to our niche. And when we've done it this way, we are dealing with highly qualified, most likely to buy from us targets. Does that make sense? Say yes. Okay. Robert, it occurs to me I didn't ask permission to put this slide up, but I'm doing a class tomorrow and next week. Can I talk about a class I'm doing?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm doing a class, and all you have to do is either click on the QR code or the tiny URL, Mikey Talks. Don't laugh at me, Mikey Talks. And I will do a whole thing on profit acceleration. This can be part of it, and we can see me. That program will be at Hello Brain. It'll be at Max 6 tomorrow morning, and I will buy breakfast if you register. All right, guys. I thought I put my phone number here. I didn't put it in. Let me give you my email address. It is simply mdg@revenuekinetics.com. Okay. And if you want to send those to me, I would love to have them. And with that, Robert, we are like right up against time.
Thank you, Michael, for this great presentation. I hope all of you are able to work through some of those different steps and create your 30-second pitch and narrow it down to 10-second pitch as well. But there's some great workshops. We will have this recording available in the content library either later today or tomorrow, because I imagine many of you, like myself, will want to go back and revisit it to go through some of those activities again, maybe with our teams to fine-tune some of that stuff. But again, great session, Michael. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time and effort. We also appreciate all of our attendees for being with us, and we hope to see you next week at our next boot camp. Until then, everybody have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.